every county in Pennsylvania, telling stories, small performances. Another absolute favorite is Read All About It, and this is through the library system. It encourages not only reading, but discussing what you've read. Another great program that we offer is a grants program. We offer grants to local organizations to support their programs and also to assist in bringing our programs into the area.
How often do you have these events?
We are part of partnerships within the community, weekly, monthly, seasonal. It depends. Check our calendar. It's listed at www.pahumanities.org on the web. I'm sure you'll find something you like.
Thank you so much, Ann and Brian. You know, the humanities really are the key to unlocking the door to the things that we're passionate about, like our culture and history and identity. Well, let's go back for more now from Charles Pettaway. Please welcome him.
Thank you. As I was saying, as Mozart's notoriety spread, he was seen on concert posters with the likes of Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart, who was younger than Saint-Georges, and also Franz Joseph Haydn. I want to stop here for just a second, and I want to talk about Mozart. Now, of course, Mozart was a child prodigy who traveled all over Europe and made a big name for himself. Of course, when he died penniless, as one of the questioners asked earlier. But he did die penniless. But Mozart wrote many, many great works, and if you saw the movie Amadeus, you realize the types of music that he wrote in Salieri and his response to some of this wonderful music. But people don't know that Saint-Georges was one of the first innovators of the Symphonie Concertante. Now, Symphonie Concertante is a large orchestral work written for dueling instruments, two or more solo instruments played at the same time against an orchestral backdrop. It's like a double concerto or a triple concerto for those who understand what I'm saying. But the point is, so Mozart wrote a Symphonie Concertante. According to Saint-Georges' biographer, Gabriel Benet, Mozart used this theme that I'm going to play. Listen to this. He used this theme in his Symphonie Concertante. So he starts here. He goes all the way up the fingerboard, and then he drops all the way down here. That's what Saint-Georges was doing. And Gabriel says that Saint-Georges wrote in his second violin concerto the exact same figure, but he wrote it before Mozart. So Benet says that Mozart copied that same figure. The only difference was Saint-Georges wrote it in the key of E major. Okay? Mozart wrote it in E flat major, the same notes. So Mozart stole from Saint-Georges. And guess what? It is now bonafide that that's exactly what happened, because nobody was writing at the upper register like that and then shooting all the way back down. That was Saint-Georges' style. Okay. Another great composer of the time, actually the greatest composer in France during that period, was Franz Joseph Haydn. Musicians affectionately called him Papa Haydn. Now, this is something that's very interesting, and most people don't realize this. Saint-Georges traveled to Vienna to meet with Franz Joseph Haydn and commissioned Haydn to write 6 symphonies. They became known as the Paris Symphony. One of the symphonies was named La Reine, which means the Queen, and it was one of the favorite symphonies of Marie Antoinette. These works were really, really quite innovative, and Saint-Georges conducted these works with a new orchestra, and that orchestra was known as the Concert de la Loge Olympique. This was his second orchestra that he conducted. Now, this orchestra was founded by the Freemasons of France. Saint-Georges became the first black Mason, French black Mason, I should say. He was the first French black Mason. And he was asked to commission 6 pieces by the renowned Papa Haydn, and he performed all of them with this great orchestra to much critical acclaim. So there were many, many firsts for Saint-Georges. At this point, I want to talk a little bit about an important form of the period. What am I talking about? You know, when you listen to music, I don't care what it is, it's written in some sort of form. It could be binary, 2-part form, statement and departure. It could be ternary, 3-part form, statement, departure, and a return to the statement. Sonata allegro form is just like that. It's an extended 3-part form. When you listen to symphonies, when you listen to classical violin sonatas, when you listen to concertos, when you listen to string quartets, most of the music that when you go to hear the Philadelphia Orchestra, if it's a symphony, it follows the form sonata allegro. It's an extended 3-part form. Let me just tell you very quickly, there are basically 3 parts to sonata allegro. 1, exposition. 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 That's the first part. This is where there are 2 dissimilar themes in the first section. Now listen, the first theme is in the tonic key. In other words, if a piece is in C major, then the tonic is C major. The second theme, which is dissimilar to the first theme, is on the dominant, or the 5th degree of the scale. So, we have 2 contrasting themes. One happy, then the other has to be sad. This is the classical period. Balance and symmetry. This is what the classic period was about. Balance and symmetry. Every reaction has a reaction. Okay, so in other words, or every action has a reaction. But the point is, this was a period of balance and symmetry. So if one theme was happy, the second theme was sad. That's the exposition. In the development of a sonata, I tell my students often that the development is really the improvisation of the 2 themes. In other words, they use compositional devices where they take just part of the first and second theme and they improvise on it. So the development is created through improvisation. Let me say that at this point. And then finally, we have the recapitulation, where the 2 themes are introduced again. Both themes are now in the tonic key. I'm going to play now the first movement of Saint-Georges' Sonata in C major. And we'll hear the first theme in C major, tonic, and we'll hear the second theme in G major, which is the dominant. And then we'll hear a development where he takes those two themes. And then finally we get back to the recapitulation where both themes are in the tonic. So let's listen now to Saint-Georges' Sonata number 1 in C major. Oh, one other thing. You'll hear throughout this sonata in the bass anybody know this? Listen. That's known as an Alberti bass. It was created by Domenico Alberti. All the great classical musicians use that accompaniment figure. Saint-Georges went overboard with that same idea. He uses it in all 3 movements. Let me play now just the first movement of his sonata in C major.